865-693-5400. Guys, your health right now is more important than ever. I recommend Low T Center. That's where I get my levels checked. It all starts with the annual wellness exam where they do a comprehensive health assessment exclusively for men, making it quick and easy to take care of your health. And now they offer monitored self-inject at-home testosterone treatment. Most insurance is accepted. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment and make your health a priority. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
If you want to get in on the conversation, call the Iris Networks hotline at 865-200-5503. Grow your business with Iris Networks high-speed fiber internet. irisnetworksusa.com.
Joined by Austin Price here on the Swain event. Austin Price of VolQuest.com. His time is brought to you by Jennifer Morris with Keller Williams Realty. 865-257-7897 is her telephone number. Keller Williams Realty. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, call Jennifer Morris. Austin Price, good morning.
What's up, Jason Swain?
What's up, man? Let's do it.
Do we have to?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. I want you to tell me first, off the bat, man, Tennessee has gotten a couple defensive linemen, gotten a quarterback, gotten a receiver. Numbers-wise, like, are we at the limit? Are we getting close to the limit? I mean, how many more potential transfers can Tennessee get? Walk us through the numbers.
Well, I do think they're at their limit. Now, I say that based off the fact that, you know, if they could possibly take a couple of more transfers, if the right people fell their way. But if they do that, they have to take away from the class of 2022. So those would, you know, count forward. So I don't think Tennessee really wants to go down that alley unless it's someone that can help them multiple years. So, like, Devontae Payton, Caleb Tremblay, they're 1-for-1. They're here, you know, 7-8 months. I don't think Tennessee wants to take anybody like that at this point. I think Tennessee would, though, if the right person fell their way that could be, you know, a help to this program and they feel like is worthy of taking away from the 22 class, then I do think that that's possible. But I still lean to they're probably done. Maybe add one.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, I understand you may not want to dip into the transfer portal if you don't feel like it's worth it. I see so many advantages from getting a player, and this is the caveat here: a player that is emotionally mature, physically mature, and a good player, better player than what a freshman high school player would be coming in. I think you make the move, you know, in those three cases. Physically mature, emotionally mature, and he's a good player. If you can get a player like that, I mean, I think he may be more valuable than a high school player, especially if the player has, you know, 2 or more years of eligibility.
Yeah, I think that if one of those guys is available that you're describing, that's something Tennessee would look at pretty strongly. But not always the case. Mm-hmm. And you also got to factor in, like, not every name in the portal is squeaky clean behind the scenes. So you start checking off all the boxes of the criteria you're wanting. Someone who's got multiple years left, someone who you feel like can really help your program right away, someone who can do all the little things off the field, you know, correctly. Jason, I mean, not everybody's going to check all those boxes. So the number of people that you would, you know, look at, I mean, there might be somebody out there like that, but they may play a position that you're really full at. So, you know, finding a pass rusher or a corner, you know, or another linebacker that fits and checks all those boxes, you know, that to me, that's when it becomes more difficult.
I understand.
Austin, are all of the transfers that Tennessee picked up in the transfer portal, I guess only one quarterback can start. But we'll go with the transfers that Josh Heupel picked up. Or are the Josh Heupel transfers going to all start game number 1?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
You know, I'll lean no at this point. I don't know why. I just don't think they'll all start because I don't think that Dejon Terry and Caleb Tremblay will start because if they do like Matthew Butler, they like Elijah Simmons, they like some of those younger D linemen. Javonte Payton. I mean, to me, it's going to be harder for him to crack a receiver lineup and be on the field against Bowling Green. That's just my opinion. I mean, he'll play. I'm just saying, is he out there for the first play? Which is what I would consider starting. That to me is harder to do. So I'll say no. Not every one of them will be on the field for the first offensive and defensive play when Tennessee plays against Bowling Green.
A good chunk of fans were surprised that Tennessee decided to go with a receiver over a second defensive lineman, and this was before Tennessee picked up Dejon Terry. What receiver that was already on the roster do you think adding Javonte Payton puts on notice?
I don't know if it really puts anybody on notice. I just think that, Tennessee wasn't happy enough with their receivers and felt like they needed to add more experience. I think it puts on anybody on notice who hadn't played the position a long time. I think this staff really feels like Cedric Tillman is steady Eddie, and really makes some of the better catches. Amongst that group. I mean, Bayless Jones, Jalen Hyatt. And they're going to play so many receivers with their current offense. I don't know if it puts anybody on notice. Now, defensive line, I think that, some of those older guys should be put on notice. The Greg Emersons, the Aubrey Solomons, the Darrell Middletons. But, yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, is Tennessee going to take a receiver, I'd have probably told you no. Because, myself personally looks at Tennessee and thinks they're okay there. But they don't think they're okay there. They think they need to add somebody, and so they did. And then they're the ones there every day. So, a lot of fans don't understand why you take Dejon Terry over Jay Hardy. Because everybody sees, well, he's a former 4-star from Chattanooga. He's not Cade Mays. He can come back home. But, I mean, you got to, again, check all the boxes that we just talked about, And, can Jay Hardy end up back at Tennessee? Sure he can. I just think he's got some stuff to do before he ends up before he potentially could end up at Tennessee long term. I don't see him here this fall.
You think he plays in the Power 5 this year?
Well, if he's coming to Tennessee at some point in the future, no. I think he would have to go JUCO. So we'll be interested to see what he does, what decision he makes. If he ends up in junior college ranks for a year, then I think there's a strong chance he ends up back at Tennessee. Gotcha. If not, then obviously no.
Gotcha. 865, 255, 03. In your opinion, what's the strongest position going into the summer for Tennessee?
Oh, I would have to say offensive line. I just feel like that's a real steady group. I mean, are they totally settled there? No, because they've got to find their tackles or their, consistent tackles. But I think they're a deeper unit than given credit for. And, wide receivers would be right there as well. I mean, I know they had Javonte Payton, but I still think on the whole Tennessee's wide receivers are pretty good. Running backs just inexperienced. Obviously, we know what the quarterback situation is, and it's a thrill a minute. Defensively, you would say the defensive line, but the fact they picked up 2 transfers tells you otherwise, and you don't have any confidence in the linebackers. And the secondary, I think, is solid but thin.
Austin, I want to touch on the defensive line one more time, one last time, and in part because we got a question on the text box about
Who's it from?
OG Triple OG. OG Triple OG was asking about Greg Emerson and Omari Thomas, and if they're going to take a step, and kind of why does the talk of the defensive line continue to be that room needs depth when you look on a roster and there's a bunch of bodies there and a bunch of guys who are upperclassmen?
Again, what you and I think this team needs and what Rodney Gardner thinks this team needs is two different things. Rodney Gardner isn't happy with, his room. They're going to try to look to improve it. And so just because people have played does not mean that they're good. And I'm not knocking anyone. I'm across all sports. Just because you played doesn't make you good. Just means you were the best at that time. And so if Rodney Gardner feels like he can upgrade and improve his room by adding two bodies, one from Southern Cal, one from Kansas, then let's see what he's got. I mean, Tennessee's defensive line last year basically had no coach. And so, once Brumbaugh was fired, so that group probably needs kind of a reshaping. And so I think that, some of these guys that are used to doing it a certain way, they're either going to shape up or they're going to be shipped out. So we'll see how they respond this summer. I think they have a chance to still be here, but at the same time, they've got to do things the right way. And so that's why Tennessee brings in two quality bodies.
Don't get much more clear than that. Austin Price, VolQuest.com. What is Tennessee getting in tight end commit Brody Foley, 6'6", 230 from Cincinnati, Ohio?
Well, they're getting a kid that can stretch the field, a really solid athlete, high points the ball well, and they're getting a guy that's already 230 pounds. Let's say that, he's listed 6'6". So let's say, though, everybody gets the old courtesy age. So let's say he's 6'5", 230. He's already, weight-wise, pretty far along. So when he gets to campus, I'm not saying he's playing right away, but what I'm saying is body-wise, you don't have to put 40 pounds on him. Jacob Warren got here and he was like 207.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to, put all that weight on. You're getting a kid that's, already college prepared as far as size, weight, and then it'll be just about reshaping, the body more than it is packing on the pounds.
Yeah. Interested to see how Tennessee's going to use the tight ends this year. We're seeing how important they are at the NFL level. I didn't see where, just from a statistical standpoint, I didn't see where Central Florida really blew up the tight end with targets. But that doesn't mean that they're not a vital piece of the offense and don't have a ton of responsibility. So we'll know that this fall. And so for Brody Foley, 3-star receiver from Cincinnati, man, did it play any to him? Was it a big factor to him that the offense coordinator was also the tight ends coach?
I don't know if it played a huge role. I do think that, for Brody, he and Coach Golish have had a really good relationship. And Coach Golish has recruited the state of Ohio for a while. So I do think that, Brody had wanted to jump in coming off that open practice back in early April. And Tennessee kind of held him off, just not because they didn't want him, but more so because they wanted the first commitment of the Josh Heupler to be an in-state kid, and it ended up being, Elijah Herring from Riverdale. And so, once that happened, Brody kind of got a new date in mind and kind of, it always cracks me up. I really want to keep it a secret. And I'm like, then you probably shouldn't have tweeted out, hey, or put on Instagram, commitment in 14 hours, 14 minutes, and 12 seconds. Because, I mean, once you put out a date or a specific time, anybody that's covered your recruitment really starts digging on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how that went down.
Were you surprised to see Henry To'oTo'o land at Alabama?
Well, I mean, not really, but at the same time, like, yes and no. Like, no, because that's one of the main schools that he was interested in from the jump. But yes, just because it seemed like, and it sure felt like everything had cooled on that end. Now, I had talked to somebody, 6 weeks ago or so, and they felt like Alabama was going to go in a different direction. But maybe coming out of spring practice, they reevaluated and decided to go down that direction. And, Henry playing the long game, otherwise, why would you not have announced until now? I mean, you've been rumored for Alabama for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
That part of it checks the box that, Alabama, potentially reevaluated and felt like they needed help at linebacker. And that's why Henry didn't announce till May 8th or whatever it was.
What about Crouch to Michigan State? That kind of, at least to me, was out of the blue. Maybe it wasn't to you.
No,
you know
that one actually, his uncle played there. Like, that one was not out of the blue at all for me. So, I mean, again, those are the guys that are no longer here. And to me, you can't, concern yourself with those guys, especially Crouch. I mean, you'll never see him again unless because the likelihood, unless you run into him against Michigan State in a bowl game 2 years from now.
Who's basically switching sidelines in a team you play each and every year that is a rival. And I don't care if it's, Alabama, they've won, since 2006. It's a team you play every single year in the SEC. I just couldn't do that. And I just think I couldn't congratulate him privately. I would say, hey, man, cool, good luck. But I'm not congratulating him on, like, him achieving something. And I dang sure wouldn't do it publicly to rub the fans' noses in it and the coaches' noses in it. That's my only issue.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. I think that's just, modern day. That's just modern day athletics. Like, I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, you just didn't see that. I'm not to say people didn't get along, but, that we're on, separate teams. But at the same time, I don't think it was much more, well, if you're not with me, you're against me. And now it's like, well, if you're not with me, then, cool, buddy, I'll give you a shout out on the Twitter and the Instagram and, throw you a few likes and that type of stuff. So I just think that's just modern day. I mean, I think because of the way recruiting is done now, and I think it's really shaped from that because, like, you see a kid and he'll recruit, another kid to come play with him. But if the kid don't come there, like, he's like, go get him, Brody, or whatever. Like it's just, he's, just excited that, he just went to the school that you're going to play every year. I just think it's kind of fostered from that because they grow up becoming friends on the recruiting circuit and this and that.